welcome to a quick strategy session on how to approach a scenario in terms of just strategies you may or may not want to use, but things you need to take into consideration when you are analyzing a scenario. A lot of times, there's 1,000 scenarios or 55,000 scenarios out there. Which one do you need to play? Which one do you want to play? They all look the same after a while. They have 8 squads, 3 leaders, 2 machine guns, 3 demo charges, 3 Mark IVs, 2 half tracks against 3 Shermans and 10 SS squads or 10 American squads with some British support coming on turn 3. They all look the damn same. So how do you approach the scenario and how do you choose a scenario? Well, you need to look at primarily what interests me is victory conditions. You need to figure out what the victory conditions are, because even though you may have a quote overwhelming force, that overwhelming force might not be there to kick someone's ass. That force might be there to get the hell off the board. And that's kind of what we have in the price of Impatience. And it kind of reflects the actual the title is actually dual fold in the history of the in the background information of the scenario. It talks about this convoy leaving before it's getting its support information, so they're very impatient about that. The scenario itself also reflects patience and impatience, and that the case may be. Do you rush ahead? Do you sit back? I mean, nothing says you have to expend all your movement points in your convoy impulse. You do have to get them on the board at least, because if they come on turn 1, they must come on turn 1 or are considered eliminated. And interestingly enough, I got to be honest with you, I think the designer of this scenario, I don't know who the hell it was, but I like the order in which, if you look at the scenario, again, victory conditions are as follows. You guys can read the top of the board. You got to exit 40. So the first thing you need to do is figure out, okay, well, how many will 40 be, right? You have to, before the game even starts, if you look at my card right here, I've got all the victory point values marked down for each unit. You've got to do your homework. This is a homework type of game. You've got to know how many points you have and who is more valuable than others, who's expendable than others, who maybe you need to get them the hell off because they're not going to contribute to any particular type of fighting or might be a liability. So that's what you got to do in this particular type of scenario. Obviously, like if you just take building U5, you need to take building U5 and you win. Well, we don't care about how many losses we incur. We take the building, we win. This isn't that scenario. You have to think about the scenario before you even come on. Now, you don't have to think about which order they come on. So that's why I chose this scenario of the month. The German setup, brainless. You're not setting anything up. You're just coming on the order you have to come on. Your direction actually is where you have to come into play as a German player and thinking. Now, the partisans, you see the partisan, the control markers for the French partisans here. That's my markers on where he's going to set up. So if I reach beyond that zone, there are no partisans going to be there. Anywhere between those areas, there could be partisans in any type of concealment terrain. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of where he's going to be setting up. He's got 6 guys, so he's going to be able to cover pretty much all the roads. It's just a matter of where. And do you want to engage him early? Do you want to engage him late? If you engage him early, your tanks can come on earlier. Maybe you don't want to do that. That might not be in your game plan. That might be in your game plan, And it doesn't say you have to move every single turn. You can legit just move your convoy up. You can cruise up the convoy, park it in S6. Park it there. He's either going to fire at you or not. If he doesn't fire at you, that's not much further than now what I got. Park it in S6. Bring the tanks on, start dropping smoke, anything like that. There's any number of ways you can really approach the scenario. And then once you get your points down, I hope I calculated them correctly. What I calculated was 48 victory points total in the German OB. So, given that, As you lose units during the game, you're subtracting those units from your total OB that you have. Once you reach below 39, once you reach below 40, then you've got to kill partisans. Now, if your plan was to kill partisans first and then see who the hell's left over and then leave the board, that's a perfect strategy too. You know, you can engage them and then move away. Problem is, unfortunately with these buildings, all of these buildings have an upper level. So even if you were to break a partisan unit, he might go up a level, or in this building over here, it's a very large building, so he can go up, over, down, left, right, straight. Chasing partisans down, you could probably do it, but it might take some time. That time you might not have later in the game, especially if you wait for your reinforcements. If you are not aggressive with the convoy, the partisans might just sit there and do nothing. He might not come out because he knows that you have to make a dash for it. And if you get unlucky, because if he's aligned with all the roads, you know, those are 6 firepower shots on the unarmored table. He needs a 6 to immobilize. Anything less, that's pretty good. I gotta say, that's pretty good. I would probably take 2 shots of 2, maybe. I don't know what the percentages are, but if you're leaving residual, those are free attacks, and those are 3s or less. So that's part of the partisan scheme of things. I'm not going to worry about the partisan side because I play the Germans. But you've got to read. Next thing you have to do is what's in your OB. First unit is a motorcycle. Not too bad. -1. That's all the -1 he's get. He moves in the open. -1. So he's better to be on the motorcycle, especially with 8 morale against these types of troops because they're pretty low firepower. He can probably sustain any types of fire. He's probably not going to break. And even if he does break and needs to take a bailout morale check, he has 8 morale. You're not dealing with a minor ally unit with 7 morale and then broken 6 in the backside. You're just going to die. 8 morale unit, you better be making your damn morale checks. So if they're not, screw him. He wasn't destined to live anyway. So that's just what you got to deal with. And 6+1 leader, you think, it's a piece of shit. Nope. He gets to move units. He can block route paths. He can drive a scuba wagon around, listen to that polka music and cut some route paths, possibly. I might not want to do that simply because if you leave him in the truck, again, he's vulnerable. You don't know where the partisans are. But he has value. Then the rest of the troops, the big one, and again, this is where I think I like the design of this, is let's say you had like a really weak unit. Let's say you didn't want to bring the Kuba wagon on with the leader and the leader was last. Well, the designer put the gun at the end of the line. So if you didn't want to bring them all on and you left his ass off at the end, you're losing 5 points. It's because he would be considered eliminated. So that kind of forces you to bring the entire convoy on instead of you just sloughing off some units so you can park there and cower for a couple turns, which is a strategy. I mean, you can do that. No problems there. But the last unit is 5 points. So the partisan can wait until that last unit gets vulnerable and attack him. I mean, it all depends. Next thing you have to do is you need to look at your armored cars. Let me pull them up over here. Not armored cars, but your armored vehicles. Right here. Let me zoom in. Okay. So if you are a player that you get your OB out and then you just start playing, you're probably going to be missing out on something very important in the game. And most likely that something will probably cost you the game more often than not, especially when it deals with vehicles. Notice all these vehicles, again, from a design standpoint, all these vehicles are open top. So what? What does that mean? You know, that the partisans are 3 firepower. They can't have fire groups. They don't have any firepower on you. Problem is when you get into close combat, these things are effing garbage. -2 dice roll modifier in close combat. It's bad news. It's very, very bad news. It's like a squad, because the 337s are 5 CCV. -2 for open top makes it a 7. So 7 for the mobilization, 6 for kill. You can't give him that. So I like the design of the armored car, or not armored cars, damn it, the half tracks, being able to be vulnerable to the opponent. So sort of like this sort of reminds me of early war armor, where it's vulnerable. It can be destroyed. All these vehicles have an armor of 1. The LMG in the OB can destroy these vehicles. So these things aren't invulnerable, but they are powerful. Things that you can do with these armored cars. 1, you need to read the half-track fire group rules. You know, you need to check that out, because all of these half-tracks can combine their firepower, can combine their, at least their AA machine guns. I'm not sure about the coax on this one, but the half-tracks here, I think with passenger capacity, can combine their AA machine guns with any infantry and fire group. So, what I was hoping to do is, what was a potential that you can do in this one is unload your 5.48s, drop a 5.48 in one of these vehicles, one here, maybe one here. You save the +2 victory point squad from getting destroyed in the truck, and you throw them in a half track, which is more difficult to kill. And you go from 5 firepower to 8 firepower on point blank shots, advanced fire shots, or what have you. So your firepower does increase. If you want to go hunting down partisans, you might consider putting the 5.48s in the half tracks. You can't quite fit a 5.48 in this vehicle here, simply because it only has 9 portage points. Again, you can consider, jumping out your leader, Statler, him jumping out, and then jumping into this vehicle here for safety, and then just leave him there for all that matters. And remember, your -1 leader, you only have one good leader. Your -1 leader over here, nope, he's right here, Richter. If Richter goes into one of these tanks or armed vehicles with a 5.48, he can add his -1 leadership with the fire group, which includes the half-track AAMG. So you can get an 8 -1 shot with Richter in or on the ground in the same fire group as the half-tracks. So that's what I tried to do during the game. If you saw it, I botched it pretty bad, but the idea was trying to get there to get a giant fire group with the 3 firepower included. Even if it's halved, every little inch of firepower can help. Interestingly, on the note on this vehicle here, simple note, you need to read the Chapter H section, period. If you don't, the lock and load's right around the corner. You got to read the notes. Smoke 9, I said, hell yeah, that Smoke 9 is the best in the game. The best in the game. So, if there's a problem, I'm going to smoke it. +2, +3 smoke. I don't care if it's dispersed or what. I don't care. It stops his advanced fire shots from being effective whatsoever, because if he's firing on the star chart, let's say he fires 6 firepower on the star chart, and it's a 6 is the kill number on the star chart, even a dispersed smoke dropped on that unit is going to make that +3. So that's going to make it a 3 for an effect. So he's not going to have any effect on your units, and a lot of times you just cruise right on by him. Just cruise right on by him. Throw a +3 smoke on it in your prep fire phase. Doosh. Fire that sucker into his hex. If it's a decent hex and maybe like truncated in the area, or throw it into a location where he might be firing into. Adds 3 or 4 if it's on him. Well, in that case, even if he has 2 squads firing, it drops his 6 down to a 2, which is nothing. And if he fires a squad normally at 3 firepower, say at range, then it goes from a 4 to a 1 or 0. No effect. So it nullifies their attacks, making the 75 smoke component of this vehicle the game changer in this one here. The 75, I don't give a shit if that was 150 millimeter. You're not going to be hitting stuff. He's not going to be sticking around in buildings, stone buildings, with you. He's going to move most of the time. You're not going to be able to hunt him down and shoot him. +3 stone building with a unit, an infantry unit, makes it a base 5 to hit. It's not terrible, but if you moved, you're never going to hit anything. He might continue to move around. You know, you never know. It is an armament, but I think the smoke is the key component. This one here, interesting thing on this one here, 37 millimeter, 3 rate of fire. The 3 rate of fire is the kicker. I actually put my armor leader into this one here. The armor leader affects some of the performances of this vehicle. You could look that up in the rules on exactly what it affects. Unfortunately, it does not affect. Again, we're going to go back to this one real quick. 4 coaxial machine gun. Again, when you're reading the notes, this in the OB has a 4 firepower coaxial machine gun, which can fire outside the vehicle covered arc, but it's a SP gun. So why they bothered to reference that to this, I'm not sure. There's no background thing here. But interestingly enough, when you research this particular vehicle even more, this coaxial machine gun wasn't actually available until 3 months after this engagement. So whether that's an error in the rule or the designer just says, screw it, I need to give him a little bit more firepower, I don't care. It's a damn game. You know, so what? It's 3 months earlier. Maybe somebody just, you know, duct taped a LMG onto the half track. To be honest with you, a 4 firepower coaxial machine gun on a half track, a German half track, mind you, is extremely unusual. They're either 3 or 5. 3 or 5. That's all there is to it. You know, AA gun, 3 coaxial machine guns on 99.9% of your German vehicles, going to be 5. So, does it need 5? No, just make it 4. Anyway, that was an interesting note there. So that's just kind of like a side note. This vehicle here, say this vehicle's a piece of crap, Stu. Well, maybe not. Take a look at the backside. We don't give a crap about the APCR. We're not firing APCR in this scenario. Move it up here. MG, not applicable vehicle covered arc. You'll see me park this kind of wonky in a particular scenario, knowing that my AA machine gun can fire essentially at the flanks and the back. It can't fire forward. So the 37 fires forward, the AA fires in the flanks. But the most interesting part of this one here is the last part of this section here. PSK. Ignore the ATR because the ATR doesn't exist in this vehicle at this time period of the scenario. Reading your vehicle notes will make that apparent to you. But the Panzerschreck is available. So what, Stu? What the hell does that mean? Well, that means that the crew, instead of firing its main armament, may actually fire a Panzerschreck out of this vehicle, but with desperation penalties. So what? What is that? Why would you want to do that, Stu? Well, let's find out the Axis OB. Let's look under support weapons, light anti-tank weapons, and let's look at a Panzerschreck. Okay? Panzerschreck, 12 firepower. What's the range? Flip this thing around. Let's say we're at 2 hex range. We need an 8 to hit. Let's say it's a 1 hex range because we're +2, and let's say we're not in street fighting, a street fighting location where we positioned ourselves intelligently so he can't actually go street fighting on us, but yet we're 1 hex range. So 1 hex range is a 9 to hit. You can't use, in my opinion, apparently because it says to hit main armaments. When the crew uses this as their, quote, firing weapon, I don't really think it's their main armament. So I planned not to use it. But this thing firing at 1 hex range, it needs a 6 to hit. And when he hits, he's going to do damage at 12 flat. 12 flat. Of course, because you're firing a Panzerschreck within a half track, you'll be taking backblast. The choice is yours on when you need to do that. You know, if he's got a stack of 337s, that's a risk I'd be willing to take, especially if you have 6.58s walking around protecting that half track. Otherwise, it's a risk. But you have to weigh the risks versus the rewards. But that is an option for this vehicle in this game. Firing a Panzerschreck from the back seat. And it is 12 firepower. It's the other than the 75, it's got an easier to hit than the 75. Infantry and buildings +3, they need a 5 to hit. This thing needs a 6 to hit. So this Panzerschreck can do more damage than that 75 because it's going to hit us. He's going to hit more often. It's going to hit more often. You can consider the rate of fire 2 maybe equivalency in terms of being able to hit, but there's that. And the 75 can do area target type. Do you want to do that? That's up to you. But then you would be discarding the rate of fire 2. Again, these are all simple decisions that ASLers need to make during their game, during their planning. What am I going to use this piece of equipment for? Another thing you use, armored assault. Put a vehicle under there. If you don't want to be in it, put it under the vehicle. Armored assault, walk around. You're 0 to modifiers. He's firing most of the time at 3 firepower. 2 chart, no modifiers. He needs a 6 for pin task check. We're 8 morale. We don't give a shit, right? Or because, say, why would I want to be armored assault with it? Well, when the infantry are within the vehicle, they are not infantry. They are passenger rider crew. Only infantry gets subsequent first fire attacks. So if you are in a transported position, passenger rider crew, you get 1 shot. You do not get subsequent first fire. You fire and protect the fire, all that bullshit. You get 1 shot because PRC is not infantry. Okay. Again, knowing the definitions of the two, they're both personnel. One is infantry, which is on the ground fighting. One is passenger rider crew. Okay. So that's another thing that you might have to take into consideration. Now, defensively, I mean, all these unarmored vehicles, we have troops, we've got a medium machine gun. When you want to jump off those is based upon you. Now, for the SK players that might be looking at the scenarios, that's too much for me. The trucks, pretty much the trucks, what you need to know with the trucks is that it takes a lot to move a truck around. Truck on a road is a beautiful thing. The truck anywhere else is an abomination. You look at the truck column right here. You scroll it up. Most of these going to be, let's just go for, we got grain here. We got a 5 for grain. You can't even see that. Get your terrain charts out, people. Look in the chart. Look at the grain. 5 movement points. Okay? We don't have any gullies. Don't have to worry about that. Open ground. 4 movement points. Orchard. 4 movement points. And that's about it. There's no rubble, none of that bullshit, no streams. So you're looking at 4 or 5 movement points if it's not on a road. All right? So you have 28 movement points. That means you essentially move 7 hexes. Essentially a leader's movements, right? So you can't move too far, but you can make up some good distance. Once you get back on the road, your ass is gone, right? But you know he's going to be defending the road. So that's another thing to take into consideration. Very simple concept. I'm moving slow off-road. I'm moving very fast on-road. So you can take that for what it is. All these buildings here are going to be second-story buildings, which is 1 level. The problem is that's the second level of that building because you're counting the ground level as the first level, and then it's just it could get confusing in your conceptual perception of buildings per se. Any multi-hex building that does not have a stairwell square in it or big circle or crap like that, which is none of these except for this actual location, which is an SSR, or have a ground level and a first level. So all SK players, you are familiar with first level if you've gotten to SK3, which most of you probably have because that's where the nitty-gritty juicy tanks are. First level, treat it as a hill, right? Treat it as a hill. You know the LOS rules for hills. This is the same thing, but you're just a +3 hill. You're going up 1 level, and you get to look around. You've got the same obstacles. You get to look over things. The same rules apply. So the LOS that you have to learn here, you already know. It's just that they're in buildings instead of on a piece of terrain feature like a hill, a piece of dirt like a hill. So don't get caught up into that. Just consider them level 1 hills, right? The Y7 is the only building there. That's a level 2 location. That simply means that you get to look over these level 1 hills that you see here. right? Now, you'll have to understand the concept of blind hexes. That's not that big a deal. Read it, look at the examples, you'll get it. You have to learn line of sight to play ASL, period. Don't string it. Don't do that bullshit. Know the rules, because you have to know what you can fire at all times. At all times. If you refuse line of sight rules to learn, I point this out in the video. Honestly, you might want to choose another game. It's like fire. I mean, fire attacks, at least you could look up. Lines of sight is what you base your attack and defense upon. Your movement, your routing, all that shit. The entire game is based on what you can see and what you can't see. The entire game. You don't have to fire. The Germans, they don't have to fire one shot in this game to win. Not one. But the partisans damn well have to. Right? The partisans have to attack. The Germans do not have to attack. So the Germans don't have to really worry about that. But the Germans have to worry about lines of sight. Can he see me over here? Can he see my truck moving over here with his light machine gun? Right? If I move behind this wall, can he shoot me? If I move behind the orchard and he's in this Y7 location, and if I move here, can he see me? These are easy questions that you know instantly when you know your lines of sight rules, right? You have to understand blind hexes and things like that. How orchards change blind hexes. Orchards are hindrances, and they also can create blind hexes depending on the season. So these are all simple rules. You know, orchard, it's probably not that much in the rule book that you have to read on orchard. That's it. You know, woods are much more extensive, and you guys have played with woods for a long time, especially if you're SK players. I mean, it's a dominant terrain. So so understanding those it makes you understand the key concepts during the game. Other than that, you know, pretty much again, this is a more simple type of game for what the Germans have to do. If the Germans take casualties, they need to kill partisans. If you're passive, if you have a very conservative approach, you don't want to fight, you can't afford casualties. As soon as you start getting casualties inflicted upon you, you've got to crack some skulls, right? Or if you want to be aggressive, drop off all your troops and start mowing your way through those buildings. You can absolutely do that. You have 8 morale. Once you get into any of those buildings with your troops, the partisan can't do anything against you. Nothing. 2+3 attack, not going to happen. Just not going to happen. If he's getting a result on a 2+3, he's rolling sniper checks for you. And he only has literally 7 units in the game. If any of those guys gets pinned, any of those guys gets breaking, he's losing 16% of his force at least. 8-1 I don't count as piece of the pie because he's just going to be directing. So 6 squads, 16% of his force. He really can't afford that. And the other thing you have to take into consideration is the sniper is going to be a little bit more active in this one. The French partisan, is a sniper of 5. So that means if you fire and you roll a 5, his sniper has a potential to activate. That also, in terms of game design, is a really nice feature. It's not as terrible as 6. 6 is just atrocious. You don't even want to load your guns if the enemy has a 6 morale or 6 sniper number. 4, you'll be firing all day long. But a 5 is very scary. Very scary. So select your choices, select your attacks strategically. Do I need to kill him? Do I need to possibly break him? What chances do I have of breaking him? All right. Very simple concepts in that. You don't have to be scared of the sniper like some people are, like they're, the coming of the Armageddon's coming if you roll the dice. He still has to roll 1 or 2, and the 2 is just going to pin units. Who gives a crap? Even here, a 2 is just going to probably will stun an AFV, so who cares? You can still move off the board. But your half tracks are vulnerable to the sniper. Again, you can't have your half tracks near the sniper counter. Move them away. Move a truck with a squad in it to give it a target, because I think you don't have to select an armored truck. Check the sniper rules on that. Again, these are things that you look up normally. But again, these are simple concepts you need to look at, but you need to look at these prior to the game. if you just sit down, plop these on the board, you don't know the special characteristics, you don't flip counters over to see what's on the backhand side, smoke 9. If you just think of this as an attack unit, you're going to be missing out. If you don't realize that there's a Panzerschreck in this thing that you could pull out, give to a squad, or maybe a squad can jump in the half track, or half squad in this case, get out of the half track with the Panzerschreck, go around, start shooting partisans. You can do that, right? So know what your vehicle capabilities are. All right, it's as simple as that. It's not hard. Pre-game and the rules, convoy rules, 1 page. Those are all my highlights. You see them. You can see through them. 1 page for my electronic rule book. I had to read through them. I had played convoys in 15, 20, 85 years. You read through it once. You read through the examples. You read through it again. It's a page. If you don't want to read rules, don't play ASL. It's all about learning. It's constantly learning new rules. Constantly learning how things are. You can read a rule 10 times and still potentially miss something because there's some sort of hidden meaning in a page here and there. Don't let that dissuade you. But you have to read the rule book. Failure to do so, again, in my opinion, the game will give you as much as you give it. If you give effort, if you give work, and you read the rule book and you try to apply things logically, then the game will reward you for enjoyable play. If you simply just push counters around, get shot, kind of half-ass rules, it will not be rewarding. You will not realize that Panzerschrecks are in your half tracks. You will not realize that you actually have smoke because you're just pushing counters around. So if you like ASL and if you enjoy it as much as I do, and many, 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 many others, because a lot of players enjoy ASL because they've been playing it for 35 years. There's a reason why they're playing it for 35 years, right? I play Combat Commander. It's fun and exciting. I don't know if I could play it for 35 years straight. It's a good game. I mean, I like it. There are other games I like. Don't know if I can play it for 35 years and have the same passion that I have for ASL. I can play that game, but I won't have the passion that I have for ASL. Because ASL is all about, peeling apart. Every single game is a different pie that you get to take a bite out of and taste the flavor of that scenario and say, hey, this is the type of scenario I enjoy. I'm going to look for other scenarios like this because there's a shitload of them. Or this scenario is garbage. I hate bug hunts. I hate bunkers. I hate caves. I hate night. Whatever the case may be, avoid those scenarios. The beauty is there's a bazillion other scenarios that you can enjoy. You never, ever have to play with those types of scenarios if you don't want to. The other games probably don't offer that sort of variety. That's why we play ASL. We play it because it's unlimited in its capacity to bring you enjoyment. That's a simple fact from any facet. And anyway, that's my little pre-game analysis of this particular scenario that I undertook as the German player. Again, my strategy in this one here is just to do something differently, just to show an example, because as some of the other logs from the game of the month come in that you can participate in when you get on the ASL Skills Discord server and say, I want to engage or play game of the month, put your name in there, just log in there and make a comment, then you can have and be included in at least the submissions and things like that for game of the month. Now, if nobody submits crap and you guys are all waiting for a video, there's not going to be anything but my crappy game. The point is to get more logs in to see how other people do it. The more logs, the better. That way we can analyze it. We're not criticizing you on your gameplay. We don't give a shit on how you lose your game or how you eliminate the enemy completely. It's analyzing how the game plan comes together and comparing everyone as a whole. Comparing the community as the whole. This worked well, this didn't work well. This novice player, he kind of did this because these are the only rules and tools that he had. Was he successful? Sure, he won the game. You don't have to be an expert player to win and have fun at ASL. You just have to compete with somebody else, hopefully one of your peers, probably not too high above you, not too low below you, so you can have a competitive, fun game so everyone can enjoy themselves. But the point is to participate. This game of the month is participation. Otherwise, I'll just throw some random game I play up there like I kind of been doing. This is where you learn ASL. Do other players grab the Panzerschreck, jump out of the car, and start hunting freaking partisans down and blasting them out of buildings? Don't know. You might see it, you might not. But if nobody submits their logs, you'll never see that. You'll never see that strategy used and how it was used in those scenarios. We're not criticizing anyone's play. If you're embarrassed about what your actions are in life at this point, considering how old we all are, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. You probably never go to tournaments, and you probably play mostly solo. You know, I mean, that's not to say solo's terrible, because it's, you know, whatever. But with Vassal Online, play other people. Play other people. If you think you're a very bad player, you can go to the ASL player ratings, look at somebody who's got a really low score that just keeps losing games. They're probably just having a good time playing the game. They don't care if they win or lose. So it doesn't matter to them. They go to the tournaments, you know, whatever things calls their ratings, and they're there to have fun. They're just going to go there and play as many games as possible, have fun, and go for it. Their score means nothing. And then you have super uber competitive players that have to be in the 1800s all the time. And so, you know, I might, you know, I would probably avoid some of those 1800s early. Go with what you're comfortable with. And then, or, you know, and say, hey, you know, I don't know who to play. I don't want to embarrass myself. You're not going to embarrass yourself. I dug into the rule section here 5 or 6 times, and half the times I was wrong. Half the times I had a misconception of a particular rule. Well, that's my fault. That's where I need to continue to learn, right? And I've been doing this for a while. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn. And the more people here, the more people that we have in our ears and that are behind us support, then we'll learn more. You know, I thought the fire lane, the CX guy in the fire lane was +1, because CX is a pretty shitty effect to have our new units. It usually permeates every facet of the game on how you perform. Well, fire lanes is not one of them. So I learned that if you have an HMG, you need to get that position. You boogie on down to that position, CX your ass. You probably won't go very far because, you know, HMG. But get there, your CX won't matter a damn bit. Only on the first shot, but the fire lane is what you want, and you're free to go, baby. So that's something I learned. I love that idea. I mean, that's huge in terms of deciding if you want to CX somebody somewhere. Because most of the time, I don't want to CX. And so that is something I learned from the game, among other things, you know. So that's what the ASL Recon is all about. It's not about just showing you a game of the month and this, that, and the other. It's about showing you my particular game, how I played my game, and I try to, you know, have a wonky strategy, right? Something off the beaten path, just like Kevin said. He said, why would I expect you to go down the middle? You know, you're Stu. You're going to choose something stupid to do. Well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It damn well came close to working. You know, go watch the video and see how close it was. I was dejected most of the game, but you got to keep playing. You don't know what opportunities your opponent's going to give you. You just don't. Keep playing, keep fighting, keep learning. You know, you never know when that one rule is right around the corner on the last turn of the game that you didn't know existed, but now you learned it where you'll take it to the other game. Cutting it short is cutting your experience short. You're cutting yourself short when you quit games early. Do not quit games early. Keep playing, keep fighting, play to win. And even if you've lost, you know, if it's like here, it's a numerical value you can lose. You see how much you can get off anyway. Just see how much you can get off. And that way you can learn, okay, I fell short here by how much? You know, maybe I got the rest of my guys off and I was like a point short. You know, if I'd done one thing differently, I know that I can get the rest of the guys off based upon my experience. And again, ASL Recon, I'm not the only one going to be experiencing this. I'm going to be seeing other records coming in. Essentially, I'm going to see hopefully 4 to 5 different replays of this game so I can see and experience what other people experience and learn from those experiences. ASL is too long to play. You need to learn as fast as possible. The faster you learn, the more you enjoy. Okay? Leave any questions you have down below. Join us in ASL Recon. It's once a month right now. Usually it will replace one of the Tactical Tuesdays. Come, engage. Don't be critical. We don't want anybody critical saying, oh, you did this wrong. You need to fire here. You need to... No, screw that. We're looking at positive effects on that person's plan. If you want to charge all your guys in there without your tanks, that's fine. But you better have a plan. And that plan is what we're looking at. We're not looking whether you ran into a building inappropriately. You know, we're trying to maximize the effectiveness of your plan, whether your plan will make you win or you're lost on one turn. We don't care. We're just there to help you play your play style as effective as possible, right? It may not be successful, but you want to be effective in what you're doing. Once your effect increases, you know, then you can decide whether or not you want to change the style of play that you have. Again, critical people that want to attack people for doing the wrong things all the time. You know, there's a lot of other venues you can go to enjoy yourselves there. Supportive, ASL Recon supportive network, Tactical Tuesday supportive network. If you're not here, if you're not coming to help players, please don't participate. Honestly, we're here. You need to come. You help. You have questions. We try to answer them as best we can. And when there's 10 or 12 guys, we're probably going to find the right answer. I mean, that's all there is to it. And so, enjoy the video. It's long-winded, as always. I mean, you should expect that. But that's my philosophy in the game. This is how I play the game. I seem to have decent success at times, and when I'm losing games, I either lose them like way early or barely lose them. So I enjoy losses, probably even more so than wins, simply because it's close. Most of my games are close, and I enjoy close games. I don't care whether it goes left or right. The experience is what I enjoy, and most of your ASLers will say exactly the same thing. If you're not having a good experience, just don't play the game. So we're here to hopefully provide you and teach you to have a good experience through improving your gameplay. All right? Thank you for watching. Go play Game of the Month. If not, go play some ASL. Have a great day.